Hello and welcome back to the Wild Ones podcast, the show where we chat about bike stuff. I am Jimmy, and this week I am joined by producer Emily.
Hi.
And Nick the mechanic.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Not bad, Jimmy. How are you?
I am preparing for the new year.
Are you?
And in preparation for the new year, I am doing zero exercise based on the challenge that why is it a challenge? It kind of is a challenge that I want to come at with for next year. So life is short. Having these small goals is just like time disappears. What's a great way of slowing life down so it just doesn't pass you by and disappear? Do something that lasts a year. If you're focused on something for a year, you've got to be pretty dedicated, and life is going to be slow, like real slow. It's going to slow it down. So I think it's a positive thing. I was chatting to Nick, and we have come up with the idea of what is being named Project 400. And it's inspired by a friend of ours, Richard Fraser. When I first started getting into the London cycling scene, I met Chris Hall, eventually met Francis, all of this crew that I used to ride with. Richard Fraser had this thing called 10,000 kilometer CC, and it was the idea of working towards riding 10,000 kilometers in 1 year, which is an astronomical amount of commitment and effort. And his theory was long and slow, stay consistent, and you'll just rack up the miles. And if you don't hit the mileage, it doesn't matter. You're just working towards something. So we live in the northeast. It's super hilly. It's dark most of the year. It's cold. It's miserable. It's hard to motivate yourself to get out. And generally, the speeds that we average up here are really, really low. So I was chatting to Nick about some focus for us for next year. And I was like, well, 10,000 kilometers in the north would be a brute. It would take so long. So why don't we work out what the equivalent hourly amount of time that would be over a year? So based on 25 kilometers an hour, divide it by 10,000 kilometers, you essentially get to about 400 hours. So the goal that me and Nick are aiming for next year is 400 hours of exercise in 1 calendar year.
Okay. There's a lot of silence from this side of the room. Nick, are you on board with this?
Yes, because, I mean, this suits me because I do gravel most of the time, and our gravel being crazy.
5 kilometers an hour.
I usually average like 15 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, I'm getting free distance over here. But yeah, I think time is a much better metric because some people just jump on a turbo trainer and ride at 40k an hour, even though you'd never do that on the road. And then you just whack through the distance quickly again. So yeah, it's good to have a goal because it's just kind of like, and then if you break it down month by month or week by week, I think it's 8 hours a week we have to do with 2 weeks holiday. Means that it's just, you've got something that you know, you don't get to November and then be like all panicked, how am I going to do the distance? Like, since Catherine was born, my cycling's just dropped off. There's no consistency where this kind of
I like it.
Forces it.
Its goal is to focus on consistency. And like me and Nick, we always have a great time when me and him go out riding. So it's also just an excuse for us to regularly bang out a couple of hours on a Sunday or bang out a couple of hours here and there and have a good old jolly and not put pressure on it to be about distance or pushing too much. And if we don't hit it, that's also fine.
So we do need new bikes now. I've ordered mine. Comes next week because obviously you can't have a challenge without a new bike.
So you mentioned at the start you've stopped doing exercise in preparation for January 1st.
It was a partial joke.
Well, we live together, Jimmy, and I have noticed
Do we?
your wine intake has gone up over the last 2 weeks. You're in Christmas mode, aren't you?
I'm in Christmas mode, yeah.
No judgment.
There was definitely some judgment, but okay.
It's called tapering. You don't just like...
Well, the point I'm making is you're going hard on the partying and then you're going to go hard on the exercise come January 1st. Yeah. New year, new you.
What I'm working... It is new year, new me. But what I'm working on the basis of is, for me to achieve this, I have to be consistent from week 1. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to burn myself out in December and then get to week 1 and go like, do you know what, this was a bad idea. If I go in from week 1 and I'm like, right, well, this is a thing now. I'm not doing this just because I want to do it. I'm like, this is a thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. Then it'll be like, right, it's happening. So better do it.
I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm going to hit our 20-hour weeks until the 1st of January. So then when I switch over to 8-hour weeks, I'm going to be like, wow, what a nice, easy year I'm going to have.
All 3 weeks of preparation. three weeks cram training for a year of exercise.
Will you be doing the Festive 500?
Every year, so I'm going to do it. I think I would do it if it came back to being an actual challenge where you get a badge and it has to be done outside. I think riding inside is still good and everything, but just for me personally, it doesn't feel as much of a challenge if it's not done.
Next year, Nick's going to have to do the festive 200 hours to make up for the 200 hours he's short.
This is actually a funny, quite a few years back, I actually did, in the festive 500 week, I rode almost more than I did the rest of the year.
Nice.
Which is it's not good.
And Jimmy, are you making the badges for your project 400?
Scott's doing the tattoos.
I haven't fully got that far, but if I use 10,000 kilometer CC as a model for what was possible, what Richard created was this amazing community of people from all over the world that was anchored around a few of us in London that were just out all of the time. If it was something that other people were like, do you know what, that's a good thing to have a focus on, then I would perhaps look at how we could do some badges and also aim for, have a 50-hour badge, a 100-hour badge, a 200-hour badge, a 300-hour badge, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't want to do anything more than 400 because 400 is, in my opinion, at the top end of just what normal people can fit into a life. The absolute top end of what they can fit into a life. I'm sure there's some people out there listening to this that do more than 400 hours, but I assure you, congratulations, but you are an anomaly.
Yeah, and you already have, you don't need a badge. You already have the pride there.
And the fitness.
And the fitness.
The fitness is the badge.
You've won, okay, you've won.
But yeah, if you break it down, 8 hours a week isn't a small feat. That's massive.
absolutely.
I mean, if you read any kind of, when you fill out all these medical things and like how many exercise you do a week, it never goes up to 8 hours. Yeah, I mean, like it's technically, I'm not talking for professional athletes. I'm talking for people with jobs and families and kids and like life gets in the way. We've given us 2 weeks holiday that you can kind of come short or try and catch up for being festive 500 week. But yeah, it isn't easy.
Nice. Well, I like it, and I will cheer you on from the sidelines.
It levels it as well, because if it's not distance, means it doesn't matter how fast or slow you still time's time.
Yeah, that's actually what I like about it. Yeah, it's good. I support you. So, Jimmy, do you want to kick us off with some news?
Yes, the word is officially out on the new weird-looking Colnago Aero bike. It is real. The handlebars are even more bizarre than we first thought. We'll drop a link of some extra pictures in the description for those that are listening. The bars have been likened to an animal. I'll give you a hint. Think you're at the seaside. You've got an ice cream in your hand. It's delicious. The sun's shining. You see a little shadow in the corner of your eye. And you're like, what the hell is that? And then wallop, it swoops down and it's nailed your ice cream. And then you're very upset that you no longer have your ice cream. And it's perhaps even the inspiration for the design in their majestic, poised, wing out position as they just about to swoop down and steal your ice cream. I am, of course, talking of the majestic seagull. Do you not think?
No, I couldn't agree more. When after you said that, it's looked like the way a kid draws a bird. That's what it looks like.
Yes, yeah. And surprise, surprise, of course, Colnago have claimed that this is the fastest bike in the world tour. Though their data shows that it is just 1 watt faster at 50 kilometers per hour than their closest competitor. And apparently, Colnago has refused to say who that competitor is.
Still counts. 1 watt, still 1 watt. Still counts.
The data is based on a new aero testing model that they have developed, which they say is more accurate than the industry standard. Road CC is saying a frame set will cost about £5,560 or 6,700 euros, which is around 7,000 US dollars. And this will now be their dedicated aero bike versus the V4S, which they're calling an all-rounder.
Saves 20 watts over the V4RS, lol. On this note, I think brands should stop being allowed to mark their own homework.
What do you mean by that?
Somebody else should do that. There should be somebody should be dedicated. You test everything. You want to make something. There's one testing protocol people can't change. At this rate, we're not going to pedal bikes in 10 years' time. They're just going to
I think it's called motorbikes, isn't it?
But they're going to be so aero. You're going to sit on it. It's just going to go.
But let's not forget that the aero testing that all of these brands do is to sell products to normal people. Like they know their bike is a bike. They're out there. It's purely for marketing terms. Therefore, it's never going to be third party.
I love that they are doing. I mean, if it's 20 watts faster, great for Pogacar. He's going to have 20 more watts. But please just show us the testing results at 20 kilometers an hour as well.
Do you know the interesting thing about this is me and Francis did some aero testing on 2 bikes, and we wanted the data at slow speeds to make them more relevant to real people. And the problem is that this bike has essentially been designed as a flagship racing bike, basically for a professional team that they will then inevitably sell to normal people that probably shouldn't be buying that type of bike. And at that point, 50 kph makes sense. Does it matter whether it's like, do you need the aero data of that bike at a lower speed for normal people? Not really. But and the bonkers thing about it, and the reason they'll never do it, is as per the testing that Francis and myself have done, at the lower speed, it's going to be so insignificant.
But just make that the industry standard that everybody does that. Give a range of stuff so people can decide for themselves.
It would be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The one I always find odd is where they compare to their own models, previous models, and you go, well, it's not really an appropriate benchmark. But the interesting thing I do think from this is people have speculated about Pog being unbelievably good on a bike which perhaps isn't the fastest. If this is now legitimately the fastest bike in the peloton and is 20 watts faster than the bike he's previously been riding, he has literally just gained watts. If this data is to be true, that is... Be interesting to see how this applies to his performances next year.
For it to be more accurate, would you not have to specifically wind test him? Because isn't it true that wind test data is a personal thing, and just because a bike tests faster or a bike tests faster with a mannequin on, which is how they've done it, they've done with and without a mannequin. If he's not that mannequin and he has his own ways of doing things, then it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get that same watt advantage.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the mannequin doesn't pedal, which affects things as well. But yeah.
It's interesting because Colnago said it's taken advantage of new UCI rules to create this sort of unconventional frame shape, which is what we thought, because we haven't seen this type of thing as much in road racing, but you see it in triathlon where rules are different. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we will see more unconventional looking bikes like this coming out now that the UCI rules have changed a little bit.
I think the answer is yes.
I'd be interested to know who that competitor is that's 1 watt slower currently.
It's not necessarily one of the fast or one of the guys winning. It could be one of the smaller teams.
True. And this is it. You just need the best legs on the day sometimes. Well, I have actually found something more outrageous than this bike. And that is the cost of Colnago's merch. But instead of just telling you the price, I'm going to play a little game with you. Have you ever watched Play Your Cards Right?
Yes, it's an absolute British classic.
Well, this is a bit like that. I'm going to name an item of clothing from Colnago's website. I'm then going to list another luxury item. You have to tell me whether the clothing costs more or less than the luxury item. Is that how Play Your Cards Right worked?
Yeah, I've just it's definitely an American show as well. There was definitely an American Play Your Cards. Like most people listening to this podcast are going to know what Play Your Cards Right is.
If you don't know, you'll pick it up pretty quickly, I would say. So here's the first example.
Wait there, this isn't Play Your Cards Right, is it?
I don't know.
No, I think Play Your Cards Right. Isn't that the one where
Isn't it higher or lower?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I'm doing, right? Listen. Okay. The first example, a plain black hoodie with the Colnago logo on the chest. Does this hoodie cost more or less than a top-of-the-range Ninja Outdoor Electric Pizza Oven?
Have you got any specs for me on these?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the specs. So the hoodie is 72% organic cotton, 28% wool. Ooh. It's got a gold embroidered logo on the chest.
Real gold?
Presumably not real gold, although the price, maybe. Standard hood and central pocket. The pizza oven.
Yep.
8 cooking functions and an integrated smoker box which burns natural wood pellets for an authentic smoky flavour. It also fits a 3 kilogram chicken, a 5 kilogram beef joint or 2 racks of ribs, and it has a temperature range of 40 to 370 Celsius, which is almost 700 Fahrenheit. Tell me, does the hoodie cost more or less than the pizza oven?
You're making me really hungry over here.
I definitely know I want the pizza oven over the hoodie.
I'm going to buy the pizza oven. Like, I didn't even know this is an actual thing.
Yeah, Ninja's getting free advertising out of me.
So I am currently wearing a plain black hoodie, which looks identical to the one that the Colnago one is.
Probably not a wool blend, probably just cotton.
Yeah, definitely not a wool blend.
An expensive hoodie that I've seen, Poc does one that's really expensive. It's about 90 quid. Feels nice and everything, but it's But even at that price, it's outrageous. I'm going to say the pizza oven has to be more expensive.
The pizza oven's surely about 800 quid.
No, it's Ninja. Ninja items are usually between £160 and 300 quid. I was looking at a new rice cooker, kind of slow cooker thing yesterday, just out of randomly. So,
side note, rice cookers are fantastic.
But I found a rice cooker that does slow cooking as well.
Nice.
Other stuff from Ninja. We need to get onto the air fryer conversations there.
Okay. Is the hoodie higher or lower? Lower.
You're both wrong. The hoodie costs more. The pizza oven retails at $349.99. The hoodie will set you back £503 or 640 US dollars.
We asked wrong questions here. Does Mr. Colnago hand stitch each hoodie?
Well, is it embroidered in real gold? Maybe.
It better be.
This section was not sponsored by Ninja, but honestly, good products. I would have that pizza oven.
You're saying I could have that and my rice cooker.
You could, exactly.
You should also add that this section is not sponsored by Colnago.
I mean, I don't think that they would want this sort of coverage, to be honest. The second item is a navy blue trench coat.
£1 million.
Does this coat cost more or less than a Canyon Endurance 7 road bike? So I'll give you some specs. The trench coat, handmade in Italy, made of 2 layers of 100% cashmere Loro Piana Storm System fabric. It's limited edition with only 70 existing, and on the inside lining there's a label with the limited edition number. Fancy. The Canyon Endurance 7 is an alloy frame with a carbon aesthetic, and by that they mean they've filed down and sanded the welding seams so it looks quite seamless.
Can we appreciate how good that looks?
It does,
now?
doesn't it?
That looks so good.
It's also got Shimano 105/11 speed, Fulcrum 900 dB wheels, 35mm tyre clearance and top tube rivets so you can install bike bags.
That's a sick bike.
Yeah, also not sponsored, it's just one that I found.
105 mechanical, hydraulic brakes. That bike must be, once upon a time, that bike would have been £1,200. I'm assuming that bike is now about £1,800 to £2,000. If that coat costs more than £2,000, that is outrageous, because some of the best handmade coats in the world can be obtained for less than £2,000.
But you're missing the point. They're doing off-the-shelf hoodie with a bit of logo stitching in, which costs £5 for 500 quid.
Oh
I'm
my
going to
God.
say
This is like £5,000.
I'm going to say for the price of that coat, you can buy Canyon as a brand. £1 million.
Oh God! Based on how primed I've now been, I'm going to have to say the coat is higher.
Yeah.
Can we start a new layer where we go, how much would we be willing to pay for the coat?
Okay, you're both telling me it costs more. You are correct. The Canyon retails for £1,449.
Oh, that's spicy, that.
The trench coat is £2,008, just over $2,500 US dollars.
Wowee.
Yep. And the last one is the shorter version of the coat. It's the Colnago navy blue field jacket. Does this jacket cost more or less than return flights for 2 from London to New York in October?
Wow, okay.
Let me give you some specs. The navy blue field coat, again, 100% cashmere with the same special rain system fabric and limited edition again. It's got a double slider zip with a shiny gold finish. It's got 4 pockets and an inside pocket and an emergency removable hood.
Emergency?
That's what it said, emergency. The flights direct from London Heathrow to JFK and back for 2 adults, out with BA, back with American Airlines. You're sitting in economy, but you have 23 kilograms of checked baggage per person.
I'm assuming, on the pretense of the rest of this game, that you're talking about they're bringing the Concorde back into service for us, specifically for this flight.
It's a private jet.
Private jet.
Economy private jet.
And you get to keep it afterwards.
So two flights. So those flights probably cost, for 2 people, probably about £2,000, maybe a little bit more.
It's that expensive to go to New York.
Yeah, it's two.
It's not even that far.
7 to 8 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Francis keeps flying to LA. How much is that costing? That's on the other side of the world. I'm desensitized. I'm saying the coat's going to cost more. 5 times more. I
have to go with that as well.
Well, I can tell you the flights cost more, but only just. The jacket costs £1,460. The return flights are £1,400 £63, so £3 more expensive. However, I upgraded to one piece of checked baggage per person for £110. So if you want to share a bag, then it's cheaper than
I have
the
to
coat.
say, in their defense, I'd probably rather have the coat
Would
than
you?
the flight. I mean, I don't want the coat, but I'm just saying I would rather have a coat.
But that's only because the flight's no use to you because you haven't got a passport. There's no point in you having the flight.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is a target audience for this stuff. They sell expensive bikes. They sell expensive merch.
It's quite wild that you can basically get an outfit from them for the same price as one of their super high-end
But
expensive
yeah,
bikes.
it's like, people who buy Ferraris and then they have the whole Ferrari get up as well.
I don't think anyone actually does that though,
No,
do they?
I've been re-watching Friends recently, and there's an
Joey's
episode where
Porsche.
Joey stands by a Porsche wearing full Porsche gear, so people think he owns a Porsche.
He doesn't stand by a Porsche. He stands by a cardboard boxes covered in a car sheet.
Yes, yeah. Meanwhile, this is one for all the gravel fans. We might have just got a sneaky confirmation that the 1x version of Shimano GRX 12-speed Di2 is finally coming soon. So, a custom bike brand in Canada called Squad Cycles appears to inadvertently have leaked the news. They currently have a pre-order open for one of their gravel bikes, and it's spec'd with the unreleased 1x version of this group set. So looking at the breakdown of the components, it looks like the only new part of the group set is the rear mech, which is called the GRX 827 Di2. And if this is accurate, it appears the shifters are the same as the 2x Di2 ones, and the chain set is the same as 1x mechanical. We've been wondering when this version was going to come out for a while now. The 2x version was released in May. Jimmy and Francis covered it in a Mailbox Monday.
So finally, Shimano have launched a massive 12-speed GRX group set with a huge, massive cassette that you can run one by.
No.
What?
It's 2x only.
What do you mean it's 2x only? What do you mean 2x? Why would they do that?
And we asked Shimano at the time when 1x would be coming. They said it might be at some point in the next year, but they were prioritising the larger proportion of the market by focusing on 2x. And since then, we've pretty much heard nothing until now. So this leak was spotted by a listener of ours called Josh. Big shout out to Josh.
Nice one, Josh.
And the question is it legit or not? Josh thought the same thing, so he questioned the company, and they said the Squad Route, which is the name of the bike, GRX 827, which is the model code of this new hanger, allegedly. The Squad Route GRX 827 is available in pre-order for pre-release delivery May 2025. So I questioned Shimano about it, and I got a pretty cryptic response. I'm going to read it to you. They said, while we work closely with our OEM partners to ensure information provided to the market is accurate and timely, the bike maker in question's enthusiasm for the upcoming release can't be confirmed because we can't yet disclose when the product will be available on the market until all information is truly finalised. As Shimano pioneered the original gravel group set, GRX's objective is to provide versatility across a wide range of bike styles, so it will meet the demands of riders worldwide, no matter where they are based. So, not a confirmation, but not a denial. Maybe there's things we can...
It sounds like the wording of their Shimano statement is that it is coming.
I wondered why they never released 1x at the same time as 2x. There's loads of ins and outs of how to make it or how to do it. It's a different mech essentially, and then cassettes. But I'm wondering whether this means there's some exciting stuff happening. Like, why did they not just release it at the same time? Is it because they are going to bring out something new? Is this got to do? Are they going to go? I'm hoping personally to see more them crossing into the mountain bike scene or cross compatibility, so that you can start mixing the mountain bike components with the gravel components with the. So you've got a bit more. So bigger cassettes, maybe like the mountain bike style, 1050 something, but also the smaller cassette. I'm hoping that they possibly doing something similar to UDH, which Trams brought out. So a direct transmission style mounted rear mech.
But why? Why would you want them to do that?
Just new stuff, more like things just work better. I mean, if you take the new SRAM mech, for instance, you don't have to clutch while pedaling. So you, on a gravel or mountain bike, you turn a corner, you've got a sharp uphill. You don't have to like soft pedal where you try and get yourself last minute into the right gear. You can just put the power down and then shift the gears. newer stuff. I like innovation.
You could be onto something because their statement says GRX's objective is to provide versatility across a wide range of bike styles. So, I mean, we're speculation, we're reading into it here, but it's a good prediction.
SRAM's always been ahead with this access where everything's cross-compat, everything works together to an extent. Where Shimano, we have seen our queues where they've started doing that, where they're trying to make stuff a bit more compatible, where in the past they've been very incompatible. I mean, they had notoriously had the Tiagra 10-speed group set came out in 2 versions, and the 2 versions didn't work with each other. So if you broke the one rear mech, you couldn't use the other one's rear mech. It just wouldn't work at all. So hopefully, I've been very excited about this. We sell a lot of electronic group sets, but because we like one buy, Shimano doesn't do it. We sell no Shimano gravel group sets.
I should say as well, on the Squad Cycles page for this build, there are some pictures, but we don't think that is the picture of the new rear mech. I think they've made basically a digital render to kind of show roughly what the bike. It does say image may differ from your bike build selection. So I don't think we're seeing any pictures at this point. I think all we have basically
Is a code.
if it's true, is a code. A quick update on this one while I'm sat editing. If you are searching for the webpage, you will no longer find it, and that is because it seems to have been removed since we recorded this episode, and I'm guessing that's probably because we alerted Shimano to it when we asked them for comment.
Speaking of Shimano and Team UAE, they've just signed on as the official technical partner for the men's and women's team for the next 4 years. So UAE have been riding Shimano since 2022 after swapping from Campag, but this is the first year that they will be officially supported with group sets. I have some thoughts on this, and I wonder, and this is all very much speculation, but it feels like we've got Qs probably coming out in 2025. We've got GRX 1 which may or may not be more sophisticated than we initially thought coming out in 2025. They've just done a deal with the biggest, possibly the most famous and well-respected and loved professional cyclist in the entire world, essentially. Are they setting up for launching some big new stuff? Is there going to be a new Dura-Race? Is there going to be a whole new Shimano product line coming out? Perhaps, perhaps not. We don't know. We'll see.
Be a good way to market it, wouldn't it?
It would be a very good way of marketing
There's lots
it.
of eyes on Pog, and there's lots of people cashing in on the success of him ultimately.
Yes, but then you can also say on the flip side that Shimano's been very big in the World Tour scene for the last 24 years, or since Lance, essentially.
Yeah.
And then SRAM's been eating into it slightly. Campag's been falling off the platform completely. So is Shimano just decided to come back a
Just
little bit
topping
stronger?
up.
Yeah. So I think in the past, all the group set manufacturers, SRAM, Shimano, Campag, really liked people to use all this stuff because SRAM does zip wheels, Campag does Campag wheels, and Fulcrum to some extent. Shimano's got their own wheels. And then some of the brands have extra things. SRAM's got Velocio clothing, Shimano's got laser helmets, and they like to have done it as a full package deal. But I think the World Tour teams aren't just looking for money anymore. They're looking for the fastest product. So they are testing different things. I spoke to Envy a couple of months ago, and they said, well, they've tested wheels. Pog like the wheels. But obviously they've been told as well, if the wheels don't test as fast as new wheels coming out, then they will change based on, they look for performance, not just for things like that. So that the big group set manufacturers have had to start accepting that they can't get all their product on a team. They're going to just have to, especially for the big teams, they're going to have to just compromise.
You say it's not about money, but as well, if you're taking up that much real estate on a team, it's going to cost you an absolute wedge. And I imagine it already costs a wedge just to be one part of that machine.
Of that marketing machine, yeah.
Next, a brief roundup of the headlines from the world of racing. I'm going to do this as a big long list. Tom Pidcock is officially out of Ineos. He's gone to second tier Q365 on a 3-year contract, but apparently he'll still be riding Pinarello's off-road, despite the team being backed by Scott. His departure follows that of former DS Steve Cummings, who moved to Jayco Alula a couple of weeks back. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogacar has joined an international road safety campaign urging drivers to respect cyclists by not texting and drinking, while calling for for cyclists to wear helmets. The news comes just after Remco Evenepoel was car-doored while out on a training ride. He fractured his rib, shoulder blade, hand and dislocated his collarbone, but he is recovering. And a nasty crash at the UCI Track Champions League saw events cancelled after Olympic champion Katie Marchant flipped over the newly installed safety barrier into the crowd. She suffered a broken arm and 2 dislocated fingers, but is in good spirits. And the bad news keeps coming because Eddie Merckx has broken his hip after crashing his bike this week. Apparently, the 79-year-old came off while going over a railway crossing and will need to undergo surgery for a new artificial hip. Elsewhere, former individual time trial world champion Rohan Dennis has pleaded guilty to reckless driving in relation to the incident that led to the death of his wife, Melissa Hoskins, at their home in Adelaide last December. Prosecutors initially charged Dennis with the greater offences of dangerous driving causing death and aggravated charge of driving without due care. But over the past year, Dennis and his legal team negotiated for the reduced charge. Dennis had been behind the wheel of a pickup truck when he struck Hoskins. She suffered severe injuries and died later in hospital, but prosecutors accepted Dennis's plea on the basis that while he acted recklessly, he hadn't intended to kill his wife. He now faces a maximum penalty of 7 years imprisonment and 5-year loss of licence. And finally, Groupama FDJ boss Mark Madio has claimed there's only one solution that would make the sport safer: slow down the bikes. He thinks it should emulate Formula One by reducing speeds. He said, the guys are riding faster and faster on terrain where everything is designed to slow down vehicles. And downhill, it's worse than anything. There's only one solution: slow down the bikes. Formula One has never stopped restricting cars. Not only has it saved lives, but its spectacle has lost nothing. His comments come just 2 weeks after Tour de France director Christian Prudhomme argued that crashes like the big one at the Basque Country in April are caused by riders going too fast.
Well, thank you for that roundup. That was fantastic.
That was a hard read.
That's a bit spicy with the slowing down bike races. I don't disagree with it though. I think that's kind of interesting. How would they go about doing that?
Well, there's one logical way that I would actually stand for is limit the minimum tire size. Because people are obsessed with aerodynamics and speed with tires and things like that. But bigger tires do grip better. They work better in wet conditions. They work better for conditions like bad conditions, cornering and things like that.
So mountain bike tires.
Well, yeah. If you want to go, but just make the tires bigger.
2.6-inch mountain bike tires with full tread
Minimum size,
and studs.
Yeah.
The difference, I think, with Formula One is they are at the absolute limit of performance. There is the restrictions they've added is they've reduced the engine size to 1.6 litre engines.
But that's easily done. So stop paying Pogacar to race the Tour de France and pay me and you to go and race the Tour de France.
Yep.
That reduces engine size.
They have restrictions on like how much downforce can be on the cars and things like that. I don't know the ins and outs. Even the tyres, there's certain compounds they can and can't use. And then the fuel compounds as well. So things that we can do to reduce.
Limit how much food they can eat.
Yes, no food. Let's make the bikes really heavy. So all bikes 20 kilos or loaded packs on the back perhaps. What about putting a big shield in the front of all bikes so that aero is no longer a thing?
I tell you what, Colnago would be really pleased with that for their newly released fastest aero bike in the world.
Do you know what would be really interesting though, is if they made the pros race on 20 kilo bikes that had actual like wind barriers on the front. It would completely and utterly change how they design bikes going forward.
I wouldn't do not eating though. I would do eating pizza only or something like that.
Because if you think about it, if you made the bikes heavy, then all of a sudden, and you took away aero, all of a sudden they wouldn't even need to use carbon fiber. They could start making bikes out of steel again, which is a much more environmentally friendly material.
Oh.
Ban all electronics in the sense of no radios, no power meters, no bike computers, no nothing. Just essentially go back to learning how to be a good bike rider.
No hidden motors.
Be aware. No hidden motors. Be aware of what's happening around you. And then, very simple, just do what they used to do with the hour record. Shallow wheels, single speed, maybe a flip-flop hub if you wanted to. So you ride at the bottom of the hill, everybody jumps off their bikes, all spanners out, take the wheels off.
Do you say the hour record?
The hour record used to be you had to do it on a set bike. So there's limitations. You couldn't just have these mega aero bikes with deep section wheels.
Are you talking about in the 20s?
No, I'm talking back like 20, 30 years ago.
How many?
20 years ago.
All right, okay. So basically So is that one of the reasons why Wigo did his out record? Because they changed the rules?
They changed rules because obviously Boardman and O'Brien were the two that started doing these crazy bikes on a washing machine bike. But before that, Eddie Merckx and all of them, they all had essentially a track
a
bike,
box standard track
but
bike.
with like shallow box section rims, normal drop handlebars, no aerodynamics. Yeah, steel frame. And that kind of limited because the technology hasn't moved on. There's no actual aerodynamic benefit. Go back to that. I think Japanese Keirin racing, you have to ride on a set bike. You can't just have some crazy stuff made for you.
So I think if we actually look back at the history of bike racing, you'll probably find that crashing has been part of bike racing forever. And I'd love to know the statistics on whether there are more crashes now than there were. I'm guessing what we are seeing, though, is that the injuries sustained from those crashes are more severe because things are getting faster. So I am all for making it safer. And I do think there are many, many ways of still keeping it entertaining.
I read somewhere that the crashes lately, I mean, it's controversial, but the crash lately is that back in the day, people had proper domestiques. People didn't train as well. Where now the 180 riders are all 180 elite riders. Where controversially back in the day, you had 20 superstars and 160 blokes that helped them win to an extent.
What you've just described is rugby in the 90s.
Yeah. It was good to watch.
It's a problem when there's so much money put into a sport that everything is optimized. It's always
Professionalism, isn't it?
Exactly. Unpopular opinion, professionalism kills sport. On the topic, shall we do some more unpopular opinions?
Yes, please.
Right, I'm going to read out some cycling hot takes. You'll debate them and tell me if you agree or disagree. So the first one is from Alex, who says, my unpopular opinion is that gravel is just roadies realising that MTB is a lot of fun, but can't be seen lowering themselves to the level of an MTBer.
Oh, burn.
So they reinvent cross-country mountain bikes from the late 80s, early 90s. Just look at the bikes from back then. Rigid frame with 1.75 to 2.1 inch tyres. Did I say that right?
Yep.
And drop bars. Aggressive gravel bikes are basically a hardtail MTB with the fun taken out of them. Just get a hardtail and put drop bars on them if you have such a passion against flat bars. Yes, I know you'll have to change the levers, but hey, you'll be supporting your local bike shop.
I agree with some of what he's saying and disagree with other bit. The bit I agree with is mountain bikes are very, very fun. The bit I disagree with is that a mountain bike with drop bars is not the same as what I consider to be a gravel bike, which is essentially a road bike with massive tyres.
Yeah.
Because if the position on a mountain bike is so upright that it doesn't feel fast.
But what about a late 80s, early 90s?
No,
mountain
so
bike?
people keep using this argument over and over and over and again, and it just shows a complete lack of understanding. A mountain bike angles a lot more slack. You sit upright like this. And a road bike, you sit forward, all the way forward and things. And yes, upright, backwards is better for descending down technical stuff. But forward and up changes the way you can pedal a bike, change your aerodynamics and how you cut through the air, how you use different muscles. So yes, I agree. Gravel is more roadies because you're sitting in a road bike position versus a mountain bike position. But on that other topic is, I don't think there's anything wrong with 90s mountain bikes. They were more fun. Mountain bikes have become so easy to ride. Rob and I bought a couple of really good Stantons a few years back and went to the trails and we were so much faster because we had all this extra suspension and everything just worked really well.
Incredible bikes.
It is incredible. I mean, I love a good mountain bike, but it gets to a point where it doesn't scare you anymore as much for me. And that's why I like my drop bar mountain bike, as people would call it, with my big wheels and things, but still in the road bike position because it just essentially, you go mountain biking with it, it's...
Yeah, I feel like this argument keeps coming up for us, whether it's overrated, underrated, or in popular opinions, in one guise or another, about whether gravel bikes are just MTB under a different name.
I think it depends a lot as well, like the riding that you're going to be doing. Like, for example, if you go on a Vieri gravel ride, you absolutely could turn up on a mountain bike and have a great time. If you went on one of my gravel rides and you turned up on a mountain bike, unless you were absolutely pinging with fitness, you'd be like, wow, I've made a bad decision here. Because my gravel rides are essentially road rides, but with the odd bit of slippiness.
You can ride my gravel bike on your ride as well. I've done this. So
Yeah.
the simple thing is this. For 3 months while waiting for one of my gravel bikes, I rode a hardtail 29er mountain bike on all of our gravel rides. And the thing that I noticed is when I hit the Derwent walk or the more flat, smoother gravel sections, I was struggling to keep up with all the racing snakes on their little aero positions because I was just upright. The other thing as well for local gravel in the Northeast was all these gates they've put up everywhere. Getting through it with a mountain bike is a bit of a nightmare where I can just zip through with my drop bars.
That, to be fair, for up here, that is a really good point. So Nick's referring to those like kissing gates where it's almost like an A, where if you have bars which are under like 44-ish, you can literally just ride through them if you're careful. Whereas for a mountain bike, you have to get off, turn your bars sideways and squidge them through.
And like everybody's going to have taste in things they like. All I want from people is until you've tried everything, reserve judgment maybe. I mean, like try the different things. Currently, I have a Stanton FS 29er with 160mm travel. I've got a Stanton Sherpa 29-inch hardtail mountain bike. And then I've got my gravel bike. I've got a more aero-style gravel bike as well now. Road bike. It's all different bikes. They've got different things. They're going to be good in different areas. You can enjoy them for different stuff. But yeah, it doesn't...
Well, or...
This kind of feeds into our next point.
Or you can use any of them for any of those rides.
You can, but it's just...
but you'll have a different output.
Yeah. Exactly.
Listen, why can't we all just get along? The roadies and the MTBers and even the triathletes will let in.
Everyone knows that we all meant to just be arguing with with
cars.
drivers, with cars that are
Stop
anti-cyclists.
distracting from the issue, Alex.
I'll give you a question, Alex.
Okay, Chris from Norway says, this kind of feeds into the last point. Gravel bikes aren't stupid. Just like the term mountain bike, it's the name that's stupid. You've got your commuter model, your slightly off-road model, your adventure/camping model, and your go really fast model. Different standards and configurations for different purposes, just like mountain bikes. And like mountain bikes, the industry needs to agree on what to call them in order to differentiate and market them better to customers.
I agree with this massively. And I've had this huge issue with gravel for so long, but only as a term. Like we talk about bikes... Me and Nick talk about bikes quite differently in that if we talk about going for a road ride, we're basically just talking about a bike that has a particular tire on it that has a particular type of gearing that allows me to ride on roads and be able to keep up and someone not be holding back. When I'm thinking about gravel, what I'm actually talking about is a bike that feels like a road bike but has big tires on it. Maybe one by. And when I'm thinking about Vieri gravel, what I'm actually thinking about is a bike that is definitely one by, has mountain bike tires on it and probably 650B. So they all have names officially from how the bike industry categorizes them, but essentially it's little clearance, some clearance, bucket loads of clearance.
But it goes a lot further than that. I think everybody misses the point. So you've got different styles of cycling, and there's loads, but let's just go on the main ones. You've got road cycling, you've got mountain bike style cycling, you've got BMX style cycling. In all three of those categories, you'll have aero road bikes, you'll have climbing road bikes, you'll have, back in the day, you used to call them enduro road bikes, that's just been killed off by gravel bikes. In mountain bikes, you've got downhill bikes, you've got enduro bikes, you've got trail bikes, and you've got cross-country bikes. A cross-country bike versus a downhill bike is a vastly different thing. They don't do the same thing. It's completely different. And then even in BMX, you get flatland bikes, and you've got vert bikes, and you've got BMX racing bikes, and they've got all these different ones, even though we would just call it a BMX. I think people are missing the point that gravel is a style of something, a bike. They haven't worked out the term. It's been rushed. It's new. It's just happened. When mountain bikes started in the 80s, you just had a mountain bike. And then they started developing four cross and all these other kind of things. That's going to happen. Eventually, you're going to have stuff where I think my gravel bike, the Vieri gravel, as you call it, falls into if you took mountain bikes in the category enduro. And then something like a Ridley Kanzo Fast is, in terms of road bikes, the aero bike.
But that's kind of what Chris from Norway is saying. Gravel bikes aren't stupid. They're just, it's an umbrella term, and there needs to be
subcategories.
But exactly.
or just call it style.
Styles.
Road style bike, a mountain bike style bike, a BMX style.
I quite like his suggestions. So his suggestions are commuter model, which is essentially a work hog of a bike. slightly off-road model, which is my what I call a gravel bike,
Yep.
which basically means big tires. Adventure camping model, so that's presumably what he's thinking there is, like loads of mountain points, probably sturdy as hell, maybe mountain bike gearing, but...
Well, that'll be a
Touring.
touring bike.
a touring
Yeah.
bike. And then your go really fast model, which might be aero, might not be aero, but is road tires and just has that fastness to
And then
it.
highly, highly controversial is just call the entire category hybrid. Because technically a gravel bike's a hybrid. You can ride it on the road, you can ride it off-road.
That might get more complex.
I know, marketing people would never be able to figure this out. But technically, if you wanted to buy a hybrid, the purest form of a hybrid is a gravel bike. Because you can put road tires on it and go race crits if you wanted to. But you can also put mountain bike tires on.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I don't know if it was if it was a UK thing or if it was a world thing, but hybrid bikes in the noughties in the United Kingdom was road bike with flat bar.
Yeah, a mountain bike years. Yeah. It's a hybrid. It's what it is. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes the term because a hybrid is the like
Look down upon.
the stepchild of
Yeah.
But it's the problem with hybrids were that hybrids never did anything well. Didn't go on the road well and didn't go off road well. And I know mountain bikers will say gravel bikes don't go off road well, but they do. It's a bit more fun. Yeah.
I'll say it again. Let's all just get along. Last one is from Lil Thunder Main. They say, unpopular opinion. Cyclocross should not exist. Put on a clown costume, go to the circus and hop over obstacles with your bicycle on your shoulder, accompanied by cats, dogs and elephants there.
Disagree. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Or don't do it.
Or don't do it, yeah.
Controversially disagree as well. I think most countries in the world, bar two, well, possibly three, I could probably count America into this. All the other countries are just not doing it well. If you look at Dutch or Belgian cyclocross, the crowds, the money it generates is unreal. I mean, the crowd's like 40 people deep and it's just a big party. If you said to me you could only go and watch one type of cycling, I'd probably pick cyclocross in Belgium and the Netherlands over downhill mountain biking.
I think Lil Thunder Main is saying they don't like fun. That's all I'm reading from that.
Do you have an unpopular cycling opinion? Well, we want to hear it. Send yours to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk and we might feature it on a future episode. Next up is Fluff Up of the Week. So this Fluff Up is our Christmas Secret Santa, which we'll be doing in a couple of weeks' time with the one and only Francis Cade. And we haven't actually been able to draw the names out of a hat because he's not been with us for a couple of months.
Yeah, we started the tradition last year. Last year was the first of the tradition.
The tradition, yeah.
And this year, it was actually yesterday as I was sitting down to write this podcast prep. And I thought, actually, our Christmas episode is basically in 2 weeks' time. What are we doing for it? And I forgot it was Secret Santa.
Secret Santa. So we've done a little secret Santa draw off camera. Well, I guess it's always off camera because we don't show it to the audience until it's revealed, do we?
I've just realised this is awkward because Nick's sitting in the room and we haven't included him. You are included in our friendship Secret Santa, but you're not on the Christmas episode, are you, Nick?
I'm not doing more than one Secret Santa.
Okay.
So sorry, you're back out again.
Well, I'll just come into the studio tomorrow with my keys and pick something to take home. Thanks for the iPad.
Okay, let's finish off with some listeners' takeover. Amia says, hello, Emily, James and Nick.
Oh, James.
I have a question about bike maintenance. Me and my wife...
You can't say it like that.
You have to keep that in.
You got to explain that because otherwise people just think you're taking the piss out of him or something.
Oh, no, it's all right, isn't it? My wife.
Wife.
You have me saved in your phone as my wife.
Yeah, but not in that voice.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Be serious. It's serious business. It's bikes. Okay. Me and my wife are new to cycling. We bought our bikes a year ago. We regularly wash the bikes and keep them dry inside the apartment. But last year, after a few winter rides, I left the bikes untouched for 3 weeks, and after which I found that the free hub was completely stuck. Both bikes had exactly the same problem, and I had to replace the wheels on both of them. What have I done wrong? Was it the cheap wheels that came with the bikes, or could it be the degrease that I have been using to clean the chain? Please help me. I don't want to make the same costly mistake again this winter. He says the bikes are a Cannondale Topstone 2 alloy with some weird unknown brand of wheels and a Trek Checkpoint with Bontrager wheels. Great show. I've listened to every single episode and enjoyed every second of it.
Aw.
Thank you, Amir. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Well, I suppose I should answer this one.
Yeah, you're the resident bike mechanic.
Generally speaking, firstly, there's loads of aspects, but if you wash your bike every single day and look after it perfectly, but then go ride in our winters with salty roads and don't do it for 3 weeks, doesn't matter how much you've washed it before, that's going to be your issue. If you ride a bike in the salt, and I think loads of people complained last time we talked about, so you can't just wash it all the time, but unfortunately, that's how it works. If you dip something in the sea and you don't wash it afterwards, it's just going to corrode because of the salt, essentially. So that could have happened. There is a rare instance, which I don't think was the case in this, after I explain this, but if you keep your bike somewhere really cold, even if it's fully greased up, the grease will actually solidify slightly. And all you'd have to do is just go and ride your bike and it'll spin itself warm and the grease will become more liquid.
It's like goose
be
fat.
fine. Exactly, yeah. Sometimes you'll be like, you put your bike, get out of the garage, you push it the first time and it just feels like it's locking up and you're cranked on. But then after a couple of pedal strokes, it will actually fix itself. The problem as well is that you get, it's difficult. We live in a weird place in the northeast of England, and there'll be a few other countries that's the same, but there's a lot of countries out there that's just dry with no humidity, and things will work perfectly long over there. Bike manufacturers can't just make stuff for everybody, because there's loads of things that they have to consider in terms of Shimano up until recently made all their bikes with open ball bearings, like a cup and cone style, which engineering terms is faster than cartridge bearings, generally, because of the seals and drags and things like that. But it just doesn't work everywhere. In this case, I'm quite surprised with both of these being fairly new bikes that they've had to replace the wheels completely. Generally speaking, if it's a newish bike from a reputable brand, which Cannondale and Track definitely are, they should have just been able to sell them new rear bodies. So
you're saying the big shop should have been able to fix them rather than replace them?
Dealer. There are instances, we have this all the time, where you've got a wheel where it's a rear body is broken and it's some unbranded wheel or some wheel that got discontinued loads of years ago. But these aren't old bikes. These are fairly new bikes. Checkpoint only got released a few years ago, meaning I'm pretty sure if you ring Trek and Cannondale, they'll be able to tell you which rear body you need. If they don't, which I don't think they would, but if they did, that'd be shockingly bad.
How much roughly would that replacement part plus the work cost? And would it be worth it on, for example, an unknown brand of wheels?
So this is where it becomes really complicated. Rear bodies can range anywhere from 20 quid up to, I've seen ones for 200 and something pounds.
Right.
But the main brands, generally speaking, Mavic is 45 to 55 English pounds. Schramm's 303S, I think, is 106 pounds for a rear body. So their range, Campag comes at about the 75 to 80 quid generally. But on these ones, yes, there'll be an aspect of how much does it cost. Is it more expensive than the wheel to replace or not? But yeah, generally speaking, on something like that, they're fairly newish bikes. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
I know that the bikes are trying to be spec'd at a price point that is accessible for people, or some bikes are spec'd in that way, where the lower spec'd bikes have therefore entry level wheels and entry level finishing kit, for example. But it does seem like in some cases, especially wheels, that they're manufactured at a standard that just isn't fit for purpose.
Yeah, they just try and cut costs with a lot of stuff. And they don't make the wheels. So, caveat, I don't know on this exact bike, but it could say Bontrager on it and not be Bontrager wheels. I've seen wheels that says Fulcrum on it. It's not, Fulcrum's not really making it. They're buying it from a third party and then putting the name on. It's what we call OE wheels.
To hit a price point,
yes.
presumably.
Back on the washing aspect of, if you're going to ride your bike every single day commuting, like when you lived in London, yes, if you then skip a bike wash, it's not an issue as long as you then wash it 2 or 3 days later. The problem comes here that you've ridden it and then left it for 3 weeks, because that just gives it time to kind of, while it's standing still, that's just sitting in there, most likely wet, most likely slightly salty, and it's just slowly but surely corroding everything in there.
So what you're saying is, if Amir and his wife joined Project 400 with us next year, then their bike is probably not going to need a new set of wheels.
Well, as long as they wash it. Because even if you ride it for 3 weeks and don't wash it, you're going to have the same problem again. It's more of it like in terms of, My business partner, Rob, did this back in the day. It was shocking, actually. He bought, 2017, bought a Tomasini Italian steel road bike, and he went to town, put super record, mechanical 12-speed group set on it, and a set of lightweight Millensteins. Did one ride in Scotland in February with his cousin, came back and hung his bike in his inside. He's got a really nice garage, hung it up and left it there for 3 months. The bike came out and it was ruined.
Oh, dear.
The entire bike was orange. It just rusted to pieces. And we're talking a very expensive stuff. I think in total it cost something like £1,600 in parts just to get the bike working properly again.
That must be at cost if it's Campag.
Listen, we give Campag loads of grief, but I still think 12-speed mechanical, the group set super record is an absolutely amazing group set. But yeah.
Is this a... No, this isn't an agree or disagree, is it?
No.
No. Nice one, Amir.
Yeah, different. Just watch your bike next time.
Thank you to everyone who wrote in. Keep sending your emails. We want your questions, your cycling stories, and other fun stuff. Send them to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. Thank you to Nick for joining us. Make sure you're following and or subscribing so you don't miss out on the next episode. Thank you very much. My voice is getting higher and higher, and my energy is getting higher and higher. And now I'm going to stop. Thank you very much. See you on the next one.
What was that?